Get your counter ready, folks, because there's another new model. GLM-5 is blowing me away. Just to jump in front of everybody's usual question, is it better than Opus 4.6? Is it better than Codex 5.3? No, it's an open weight model from a much smaller lab in China. That said, it is by far the best open weight model I have seen, especially for code stuff. KMake 2.5 was incredible. It's mind-blowing how good it is for an open weight model you can go download the files for and run yourself. But GLM-5 is a meaningful improvement. It's neck and neck with models like 5.2 Codex and Opus 4.5. Obviously, the most recent things like Opus 4.6 are still slightly edging it out, but at the very least, I've had a much better experience with it than I have with Gemini 3 Pro. That said, I really want to push it to its limits. They also put out a desktop app similar to the one that OpenAI put out for Codex that is very, very exciting, but obviously this only works with their hosting because it's their product. So you probably need to sign up for that, right? We're going to give this model an honest shot, especially this early when it's not available in all of the platforms just yet. We got to do the max plan. $80 a month is a little high for a sub that's not going to be my main, but I want to make sure we're testing this to its fullest. If you needed proof that I'm not being paid by ZAI, here you go. I just paid them. The only people paying me for today's video is today's sponsor. There's a lot of things that are hard about software dev, but there's one in particular that's so hard that we meme on it constantly. DNS. I can't tell you how many times I've had crazy problems that were results of doing one tiny, minuscule thing wrong with DNS. If only it was simple. Oh, DNSimple. Reliable DNS hosting and domain names. Okay, real talk. I need you guys to pay attention to this one because they're not your normal sponsor on this channel. Most of the companies you see me talking about here are VC-backed businesses trying to scale to billions of dollars of revenue with teams that are growing like mad. Meanwhile, I got this shirt from DNSimple in a box with a handwritten address to and from because the founders shipped it from their home themselves. DNSimple's a product built by engineers for engineers at its very, very core. They're not a domain reseller trying to rack up crazy margins or some weird sketchy company trying to buy domains right out from under you. They just want to make DNS easier. When you have problems and hit them up, the person you talk to is a dev. If you ever wondered how good DNS could be as a developer, look no further. Want to list all the domains in your account? Here's the Ruby API for it. Want to register a new domain with a new contact? Here's the TypeScript API for it. Need to set up a Let's Encrypt SSL certificate? Here's the line of code you have to run. If you want to do anything even vaguely complex with DNS, like, I don't know, making subdomains for your users when they vibe code an app or letting users purchase domains themselves in your product, integrating all of that is hellish. I know companies with 10 plus people teams that should just be using DNSimple instead. Stop wasting your time and do domains right at soydev.link/DNSimple. We are in. We're definitely going to dive deep on the Zcode app, but I've been doing work behind the scenes while prepping for stream today, running very real work, including this migration for an old code base that actually ran for an hour for free. This UI might look familiar, like, open code, but if you look at the top here, it's Kilo Code. Kilo's a sponsor, so count for some bias there. They recently forked OpenCode to make their own CLI, and it's been pretty cool because you can use it with the Kilo sub. They also were the first provider to have consistent support for this new model. And not only are they supporting GLM-5, they're supporting it for free. And it seems like a handful of providers are doing the same thing, including companies like Modal, where they have an API endpoint where they are hosting this new model that you can use for free right now. In the future, do I expect it to stay free? Probably not. The current pricing I'm seeing on Open Router is about $3 per mil out and $1 per mil in. That puts it at a third to a fourth the price of Sonnet and a fifth to a sixth the price of Opus. It's a really, really good value for what it is. But also, uptime's not great because these just dropped. A lot of the platforms have an insane amount of latency, like 7+ seconds. But this will all get resolved in very short time. It tends to when these new models drop. What we really want to care about now is the performance, not the speed, but the capabilities. And the fact this is the first open weight model that I've successfully run a job that took over an hour for without issues just absolutely blew me away. And I watched it as it was running. It did a lot of smart things. The project I threw this at immediately was Ping. If you're not familiar with Ping, I built this a while ago right after leaving Twitch to make it easier to do live collaborations. It's used by everybody from like Linus Tech Tips to Elgato to the Xbox team. It was made to make live streaming collaborations easier. Still proud of the product, but it has not been our main focus because it turns out creator tools don't make a whole lot of money. So we've been focusing on everything else we're building. As such, this code base has gotten out of date, is a little generous. It's not a fun code base to work in anymore, if I'm being real. A lot of it is because I made early bets on things that have changed a lot since, like really old versions of tRPC. Migrating this code base to modern tools is one of my favorite challenges to throw models at because it's not something they really can do, but the closer they get, the more interesting they are to me. As I mentioned in my Codex 5.3 video, it was the first model that could make meaningful progress in this, and it did some novel things around patch packaging in order to make it work and unblock itself throughout. It's really impressed with 5.3's performance, but I just ran it with GLM and it seems like it is doing very well. It hasn't done the last phase of this migration just yet. I want to see how it runs for now. We don't have great Firefox support because it is a media product and Firefox's AV layer is garbage. Okay, this is a common error that I get. Every single one of the tools I've used for this has had this particular bug. Actually, this is a great first issue I have with GLM-5. Paste, fix it, send. Okay, it's a little confused or the servers are lagging. It doesn't have vision. I know that's silly. It's a code model. Why would you need it to have vision? I paste images all of the time. It is one of the main things I do when I'm writing code. I would honestly guess that 20 to 50% of my prompts have an image in them. So not having that sucks. It's one of the things that I loved about Communicate 2.5 is they finally fixed it. I am getting an error. Please fix it. We will let it do this while I look at other tasks that I ran. Jesus Christ. This model is willing to just work, which is really, really cool. It's nice having an open weight model that can go for this long. Oh, here was the first time I tried to paste an image. You're saying the drop down menu is working, but I can't see the image. Yeah, annoying, but it works. While I let this job run in the background, let's read a little bit about what they have to say about the model, as well as all of our friends who review these things. Let's start with their blog post. I feel like the vibe coding to agentic engineering title's a bit clickbaity, but I understand why they're saying it. This, from my experience so far, feels like a meaningful jump in what the open weight models are capable of, from like one-shotting cool looking demos over to something a little more useful that can go a lot longer and do harder things. Like I've never seen an open weight model that can do migration work like I've had GLM-5 doing, and I can't wait to see if that work ends up working. We are launching GLM-5, targeting complex system engineering and long horizon agentic tasks. Yeah, I can tell. Scaling is one of the most important ways to improve intelligence efficiency of AGI. Compared to GLM 4.5, 5 scales from 355 billion parameters, 32 bil active, to 744 billion parameters, 40 bil active. If you're not familiar with what this means, it's the mappings inside of the model for what points to what and how strongly it does. The parameters are basically like tokens and vectors that map together what should happen based on what text you already have. For reference, Communicate 2.5 is a 1 trillion parameter model. 744 bil is close, which means this model is going to be huge. 1.5 terabytes. Yeah. Versus 4.7, which was 700 gigs. But they do have FP8 versions and Flash versions that are lighter of the old model. That this 4.7 FP8 version is only 360 gigs. And 4.7 Flash is a measly tiny 62 gigs. But you're not going to be running this model on local hardware. I see a lot of people who assume that open weight means they can run it on their computers. You're not running a terabyte model on your own hardware. This is not something that is accessible to people at their houses. This is more useful to the hosting platforms like Modal and others that can host these open weight models to provide them for us to use. And potentially places like Cerebras or Grok with a Q being able to do their own versions of the models that are significantly faster. One nice detail now that appears is that it's licensed as a proper MIT license. It doesn't have any of the usual carve-outs as far as I can see. Things like you have to call it out that you're using us or pay us if you have a certain number of users. None of those weird things. So more parameters means the model is bigger. For example, the GPT OSS 120B model is around 80 to 90 gigs. I can run that on my laptop locally, but it's 120 bil params, so there's less intelligence when there's less parameters, generally speaking. The more parameterization you have, the more value you have, the more data you have in the model, the more intelligence is capable of displaying, generally speaking. Obviously, over time, the amount of intelligence you can squeeze into a specific size changes, but for now, bigger model definitely means more potential for capability. But this 40B active piece, this is mixture of experts. What this means is that on a given request, instead of going through all 740 billion parameters, the 40 bil section that is the most likely to be relevant to what you're doing, that's what's traversed instead. Mixture of experts models have been pretty prominent for a while now. It seems to be what everyone is doing because you can have a super intelligent model that has different knowledge of different languages, different sciences, all these different things that don't necessarily need to be traversed. Like you don't need to go through all of the Chinese data in a given model when you're responding in English. You don't need to go through all of theoretical physics when you're writing a Hello World app. That's effectively how Mixture of Experts works. 40 bil active is pretty cool, but again, the size of this model is going to make it inaccessible for a lot of people. Also, their pre-training is insane at 28.5 trillion tokens. GLM-5 also integrates DeepSeek sparse attention, significantly reducing deployment cost while preserving long context capability. DeepSeek's research has been pushing a lot of things, and it's cool to see them call it out here. Definitely is going to help with the performance. They've also made huge improvements to their reinforcement learning, which is how you tune the model after you've made it, so to speak. Reinforcement learning aims to bridge the gap between competence and excellence in pre-trained models. However, deploying it at scale for LLMs is challenging due to RL training inefficiency. To this end, we've developed Slime, a novel asynchronous RL infra that substantially improves training throughput and efficiency, enabling more fine-grained post-training iteration. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm assuming, I haven't looked into this yet, and it's not what we're here for, they found a way to run a lot of RL at the same time instead of being like somewhat linear. That could be really, really cool. Excited to see how it works. What I'm more excited to see, though, are these benchmarks. Humanity's last exam, it beat out pretty much everything other than Google's models without tools, but with tools, it won. What's really interesting here is you can see the gap of without to with tools for this benchmark, because with tools, it can like do research, write code, stuff like that, instead of just spitting out text. You'll notice here that the ZAI models do like 40 to 50% better with tools. Anthropic models do 20 to 30% better. But for some reason, it looks like the Google and the OpenAI models don't anywhere near as much. I have my suspicions about that, especially the Google models. They don't use tools great. Then we have SWE bench verified, which it got neck and neck with Opus and Codex. I believe this is 4.5 and 5.2. Yeah, it is. They made these before 4.6 dropped. This happens a lot. And 5.3 isn't on the API yet, so it's really hard to bench against. So this is the best we can do now. But honestly, both Opus 4.5 and 5.2 are more than good enough for meaningful day-to-day work. 5.3 is a cool improvement. I do use it as my daily driver right now. 5.2 is still a phenomenal model. Opus 4.5 is arguably better than Opus 4.6. Getting neck and neck with that on SWE bench is huge. SWE bench verified, it is not only neck and neck with Anthropic, it beat out Codex 5.2 and it crushed Gemini 3 Pro. And in terminal bench, it beat out both Gemini and Codex, and is again neck and neck with Anthropic. Vending bench is the benchmark. How much money can it make running a vending machine? It did really well there. Tau bench, it did very well too. This is a tool calling bench. MCP Atlas, it got right up there with 5.2. And then Browse Comp, which is a browser use benchmark, it got the best score as far as I know of all time, which is really, really crazy. You see bench v2, 4.7 versus 5 versus Opus 4.5. This is a benchmark that they made in order to test long running tasks. That seems to be the real focus for them here, which is super cool to see from an open weight model. Build success rate has bumped a ton from previous models. End-to-end correctness has bumped meaningfully as well. For backend, it has also improved, but you'll see here pretty significant gap if you look on the right, where front-end tasks can be completed 98% of the time, end-to-end correctness 75% of the time across top tier models, but backend goes all the way down to 26 to 27%. There's a lot of opportunity to improve backend work with these models still. I can say this confidently, having been doing a lot of it lately, but they slaughter front end now. And again, long horizon, apparently it's now performing better than Anthropic models for long horizon tasks. Multi-step chain tasks, it's slightly worse, but it's still doing way better. I will admit, it's kind of funny looking at one of these charts where almost all of the bold values are to the right of the thing we're here to look at. Like they aren't winning anything against the best closed weight models. Like Claude Opus 4.5 is still going to be better than this. When you consider that it's a fifth the price or less, and it's open source, this is a very, very compelling model. Let's check in on that job we were running. Cool. I fixed it pretty quick, under 5 minutes. Let's see if I can load the page now. There's one of those errors that's so nice to screenshot and so miserable for copy pasting. Apparently, their other apps can do images. So let's try out Zcode quick. Hop into a real project. Is it going to use Claude Code with GLM? Does it not even have GLM-5? Yeah. I was under the impression that this would have that, being it's their product. GLM-5 testing. Looks like that worked. Let's do a new task. Let's see if it can take a screenshot here. Fix. It is a little silly that it says Claude Code when it's using GLM-5 through Claude Code. At least as far as I know, that's how it's working. You can feel the slowness. I again want to be clear. The speed will almost certainly improve. With closed weight models from the major labs, if they come out slow, they're going to stay slow. So if GPT-5 is slow when it launches, that's probably not going to change. If Opus 4.6 is slow when it launches, spoiler, it was, it's probably not going to change. When the open weight models are slow initially, there's a very good chance it'll improve as hosts find ways to optimize them and capacity gets better, all of these things. These labs also have less capacity overall. Very interesting. It did analyze the image, but it used a tool to do it because it can't see the images itself. It's not multimodal. It doesn't have the ability to view things. It just has the ability to do things. It can't run bun commands. Is it sandboxed? Why couldn't it do that? Is it not starting? Oh, I know the things they did wrong here. I know too much because I may or may not have been building a similar app myself recently. I don't think this is going to work. So we're going to go back to using Kilo for now. It's cool they're making an app like this, but it's clearly not their primary focus, as you can see for the fact that Claude code appears on my screen more than ZAI's branding does, even though I'm using ZAI's model. At the very least, this appears to be working. At least, yeah. What did it just break? Oh no. Let's RM, RF, node modules, bun install, bun run dev. Okay. We appear to be good. I don't know what it's compiling. It's taking so long, but if I can sign in still, give me a sec. Cool. This appears to be working so far. See how it goes when I actually activate my camera. Hi, nerds. You're seeing behind the scenes a little bit. Mic, join. Okay, we got an error immediately upon joining. To be fair, the Ably client is one of the most cursed pieces of software I've ever worked with, so I'm not surprised it's broken. There are a few companies I can so confidently say are evil, and I've had such a bad experience with them. I'm not surprised that's what broke. The build I'm working on for this that I actually hope to ship in the future is one where we move to convex and I can deprecate a lot of the broken things like that. Testing, cool. And if I refresh, will the message still be there? It is. And if I do an external quick embed link, will I appear? I do. Nice. All working as expected. That is very impressive. The fact that this model ran for an hour, updated the vast majority of my core depths, everything other than TRPC, and succeeded, and now is working, is nuts. No closed weight model could do this even at the start of this year. The fact that an open weight model is doing it this early into the year is actually really, really impressive. Obviously, Simon made his own post as well. It's interesting to see ZAI take a position on what we should call professional software engineers building with LLMs. I've seen agentic engineering show up a few other places recently, most notably from Karpathy and Adi Osmani. That's fair. It seems like the industry is trying to move away from the vibe coding term because it has so much negative association, and this is a lot deeper. Oh shit, apparently Dax is hanging out in chat. Why am I using Kilo CLI? Because you guys didn't have GLM-5 yet. Don't worry, Dax. I called out the fact that it's a fork of open code at the start. People know. And that I'm using it for this. Is GLM good? Oh, I'd missed this, Dax. It's insane. It is actually capable of super long-running things. I just ran a job in it that went for almost an hour. It was a huge migration too. I was migrating the old ping.gg code base. The only other model that's come close to getting this working properly is 5.3 codex, and it did it. Yeah, 59 minutes, 38 seconds, almost an hour on the dot it ran for. So y'all definitely want to get this supported ASAP. Can we commit the current changes and implement phase 4 now? It has good Git etiquette too. That was not a thing I necessarily expected, but it's cool to see. I told it once during this to commit for me and make this new branch, and it seems to be doing all of that quite well. This is the most I've felt that like competence thing that you get from just Opus and Codex and like top tier models. This is the most I felt that outside of the major labs. I'm feeling something with this one. And yes, I did that 1 hour refactor on the free tier in Kilo. It's kind of nuts. And I would expect a lot of other places to offer this for free or really cheap too, because it's not the hardest thing in the world to host if you have enough GPUs that are competent and able to do that. For those of y'all who are looking for like near best in class intelligence, but don't have the budget for these $200 plans, this is really compelling. This is a big task. Let me start with the package updates planning. Honestly, a new index y'all should start tracking rather than just best new model index is how much of the video am I actually using the model in coding and showing code versus reading other stuff. The more time I'm spending in the details of a code base with it, it's probably a better model. Man, the dashboards for all these sites are rough. The amount of times I've been signed out randomly on the ZAI site is a little frustrating. And now I have open code proper set up. And look at that. I can use GLM-5 through my coding plan here. Let's try this on a different project just to see if it feels any faster. I'm planning on releasing this app soon. Anything stand out that I should address before we launch? Throwing it at Shu, see how it does. We should do a quick UI test on this. Initialize it with Vite, Bun, Tailwind, React, and TypeScript. Make 5 renditions of the homepage. Use your front-end design skill to make them look awesome. This did a legit audit. It only ran for 2 minutes, but it found a lot of good stuff. Like it actually properly scanned the app, found all the things that mattered, and gave good suggestions. This is a good model. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I'm excited to see how it does at UI, though. That's where a lot of these open weight models struggle. Kimi K2.5 did a good job there, but remains to be seen how good. I'll write them all in parallel for efficiency. Fuck yeah. While we wait for that, let's see what artificial analysis had to say. GLM-5 is ZAI's first new architecture since 4.5. All the other models were part of the original architecture. 5 scaled all the way up to 744 bil, as we mentioned before. It's also BF16 floating point precision versus FP8 and Int4 for DeepSeek V3 and Kimi K2, which is a big part of why the model is so massive. GLM-5 scores 50 on the intelligence index and is the new open weights leader, up from 4.7 score of 42, an 8-point jump driven by improvements across agentic performance and knowledge and hallucination. The hallucination part in particular is really, really cool. It appears to be the model that hallucinates the least of any model to date. The fact that Google's already been crushed by an open weight model is kind of crazy. Like Gemini 3 is bad and is now, it was already pretty irrelevant. Now it's done. GLM-5 abstains more frequently in the hallucination bench, which keeps it from getting negative points for lying and being wrong, and that is why it got the lowest score they've ever seen on the hallucination benchmark. Its hallucination rate is in the 30% range versus, I don't know, Gemini 3 Pro at 88%. Yeah, it's much more willing to say, sorry, I don't know that, than other models that will just lie and be wrong. 200K token context, multimodality is text input and output only. K2.5 remains the leading open weight model that supports image inputs. Yep, and K2.5 is also really, really good with that. I can honestly see value in something like a generic image recognition tool that uses Kimi K2.5 just for the image part, and then you can use this model for everything else. I don't think any of the open weight models are good enough by themselves to be the only model you use, but some level of orchestrating between them could work really well. I know a lot of people were previously using GLM as the like workhorse model and had something like Minimax commanding and controlling it. Kimi K2.5 shook things up a bit, and I'm sure GLM-5 is going to even more so. Its placement on the cost versus intelligence is really, really solid. It is a little more expensive than Kimi because it's freaking huge. Cost might go down, but hard to know for sure, but its performance is a meaningful improvement. It doesn't quite hit this green range, but it's not far off either. And it just kind of makes other models feel way more expensive. So remember, this bottom bar is log scale. So something that is 50% further on isn't twice as bad. It's 20x sometimes. It's brutal. It also uses fewer tokens to run the benchmark than before, even though it is performing much better. That is cool to see because GLM 4.7 was definitely token hungry for these reasoning benchmarks. And that seems to have been mostly addressed with this release. If we go look at the actual cost to run, you'll see it's way lower than the leading models. GLM-5 cost $500 to run this benchmark, whereas Opus 4.6 cost $1,500, 3x cheaper. 5.2 high was $2,300. And Opus 4.6 in the adaptive reasoning, where it can reason as much as it decides it wants to, $2,500, and Codex on X high, $3,200. So between 3 to 6x cheaper for intelligence that is not as good, but meaningfully close enough. Let's see how the designs came out. The fact that you can get design this good out of an open weight model is kind of freaking nuts. What? Obviously, K2.5 can do well, but like that is a really good starting point. Let's check the other ones. They all do this font clipping. I've seen so many of the models screw this up. It's pretty, but has problems. 3. Ooh, I like where they're going here, but this side is just not done quite properly. Again, I like where they're going with it, but I have some issues with like the backdrop and things, but this would be a reasonable starting point. Like if you don't want to spend the money on the more expensive models, this is fine. Obviously, one of the things that sucks about this is if you have a problem, you can't just screenshot the thing you don't like and say, hey, fix this, because it doesn't have the ability to look at images. But like, these are reasonable starting points. None of this is like as good as what I expect from Opus 4.6 with the design scale, but it's honestly better than what I get from GPT models. And I'm still so blown away with the hallucination rate thing. That's so cool to see. And if they can get the cost down a tiny bit with optimizations in the hosting, they will quickly end up in this range and be by far the smartest model at a reasonable price. Like pretty much everything to the right of this model is not as smart other than Opus 4.6 in adaptive mode and Codex in extra high. Pretty much everything else is dumber, which is kind of crazy that it's only halfway on the cost index and it is near the top on the performance. If you've ever doubted that intelligence would be commoditized, Hopefully, the recent releases of K2.5 and GLM-5 are swaying you the other way. The speed at which these labs are catching up with Frontier is insane, especially when you consider that at the same time, labs like Google and XAI are not keeping up. Like, where even is Grok 4 now? Oh, it's all the way down here at 41 and 39, respectively. I'll never understand the Grok fanboys, but especially now all their researchers left, things are a little scary. They're getting crushed. Like, everyone's being crushed by the main two labs here and the handful of really talented ones in China. I really don't think that at the end of the year, anyone other than Anthropic, OpenAI, ZAI, DeepSeek, Minimax, or Moonshot, like, those are the only labs that matter right now, it feels like. Things could change in the future, but no one's moving as fast as they are. I suspect the future is going to look very similar to what we see here. The numbers might be bigger, but the order I would suspect to stay relatively similar. But it is really cool that one of the top 4 models right now is an open weight one. I'm excited. And by the way, that migration I was doing for the TRPC thing is still running. It can kind of just go. And all of this migration I've been doing here, if I was charged proper API rates, would have cost about $10. I almost paid an engineer a few $1,000s to do this migration, and it will just grind it out in the background. This would have cost 100 plus with the best-in-class closed weight models. That is insane. I think I'm going to use this model for a lot of stuff. Congrats to ZAI for the incredible ship. Love the focus on engineering and long-running task work here. It is far ahead of everything else. I don't think I would like talking to it a whole lot, and the lack of multimodal support for images is a little bit rough. But other than that, feels like we're kind of there. It's wild seeing how fast the open weight world is moving, and I couldn't be happier with this release. I am so pumped. While it isn't going to replace my daily driver of Codex 5.3 just yet, it is so surprisingly close that I can easily recommend this to anybody trying to save money or run models that they can host themselves. Curious how y'all feel, though. Are you as excited as I am about this release, or are you just tired of all the new releases? Let me know how you feel, and until next time, peace nerds.